Today you join me at BMW Test Fest in Greenville, South Carolina, where we have the opportunity to drive a lot of BMW's cars, but also here on the bike channel, we have a chance to get out on two wheels. And this is the BMW R18 Roctane. This is a version of the R18 that we have yet to have the chance to ride, and today that's exactly what we're going to do.
Easily the best thing about the R18, however, is riding it, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, the cool thing about these bikes is that the seat height is actually pretty low, and that's nice because these are heavy machines. They're not quite as heavy as the R18B and the R18 Transcontinental that we had a chance to review already, but still a big bike, so having that good bend in your leg, super helpful for being able to handle this bike when it's stationary. Now, firing the bike on, you can see the gauge come to life. You've got a couple dummy lights built into it and a small screen, but I love the fact that that's an analog gauge. And something cool about these bikes is when you fire them up, you see that rotation to the side? It's because this is a longitudinally mounted engine rather than a transverse engine, and that's part of what gives this bike a very different character than a V-twin, which is what most cruisers are. So it's cool to ride something different. Now, these are big, heavy bikes, so especially low-speed maneuvering is something that you have to get used to if you don't usually ride big cruisers, but these are pretty well-balanced bikes, and they are very torquey, so pretty easy to get them going.
Powering the R18 is this 1802 specifically cc Boxer. This is a massive air and oil cooled Boxer engine that is of course very classic to BMW, and it produces 91 horsepower and 116 pound-feet of torque for this big bike. All of that runs through a 6-speed transmission, and you can see here a heel-toe shifter setup like on a lot of R18s. And moving up to the engine itself, these covers are pretty cool because it's mostly fairly blacked out. You have just a little bit of chrome here, but I do like the black covers, and I really like this flange on the headers. That's very old school, and I love the look of it.
This bike feels like a fine timepiece. That's the best way I can think to describe it. It's not dramatic, it's very controlled, very subdued, and very comfortable. But if you lay into it, yeah, I mean, they can definitely get up and move. There's a lot of motor under you. And I love that roar that you get from this Boxer engine. It's a really cool sound. Again, very different from the V-twin rumble that you get from most bikes this size. Now, the R18 Roctane has a super comfortable riding position. You've got very upright handlebars, comfortable seat, and these decent sized foot platforms, which makes for a nice bike to sit on. It's easily a bike, obviously, that you could spend a lot of time on, which is hugely important for this category of motorcycle because that's really what they're designed to do. Other versions of the R18 have that big 10.25-inch screen, and I know for a lot of people that's probably one of the big things that they buy the bike to have, but having this analog display totally changes the character of the bike from where you sit. It makes it feel a lot more retro in a way that appeals to me personally. It might not be for everyone, but that would be my preferred setup if I were in the market for one of these motorcycles. And once again, the roar of that twin is just fantastic. I also love the way that this bike is sprung. It doesn't feel overly soft, but it's still plenty comfortable, and we're not on very twisty roads around here, but I will say, because I've ridden the R18s on some windier roads, one of the downsides of them is because you've got that big Boxer head sticking out, it really doesn't take a ton of lean angle for you to end up scraping. I mean, your floorboards are the thing that is going to scrape, but ultimately, definitely the head sticking out is going to be a limiting factor as for how far you can lean this bike over. Something else worth noting about this engine configuration is that if you're the type of rider that wants to have high weight pegs to set your feet out in front of you, well, obviously this engine configuration is going to get in the way of that. And I wouldn't recommend laying your feet over the head because, I mean, the header's right there and it's an air and oil cooled engine, so it does get hot.
One of the things that makes the Roctane unique is the way that it's configured, because there are a few different versions of the R18 and a lot of that comes down to how much storage it has, what kind of storage it has, and some of the styling. This one is in a flat grayish black color. You've got hard cases at the rear. You've got a slightly taller handlebar, no screen, but instead you've got the Speedo built into the headlight bucket, which is a super cool, very retro look. And you have this big 21-inch cast front wheel. Something that's not immediately apparent through video, but is immediately apparent when you actually approach these motorcycles, is the fit and finish on them. Everything on this bike that you interact with, as you can hear there, is metal. The construction of this motorcycle is one of the most impressive things about it. There's really not a lot of other bikes on the market that have quite the same feel to their fit and finish. Everything is very well painted, but look at this badge on the side of the tank and the way that it's actually got exposed hardware holding it in place. Look at the machining here on the fuel cap. I mean, the way that these motorcycles are put together is a way that motorcycles used to be constructed, and it makes this bike feel like it's really of a different era. That's why BMW calls this category of their motorcycles their heritage bikes, because it really is more about that experience and that tactile feel than it is necessarily just pure functionality. Nothing drives that point home further than the nickel-plated drive shaft that you have here. It's exposed at the back of the bike. You can't see it quite as well with these side cases in place, but this is one of my favorite things about these bikes. BMWs have been shaft-driven largely for a long time, and this is just a great celebration of that.
Now this is just anecdotal because I haven't looked at the actual sales numbers, but it seems to me that I don't see as many of these bikes out on the road as I think there should be, because it's a really nice motorcycle. It is nicely put together, it's nice to ride, and I think a lot of people that are shopping for a cruiser, a bike of this size, want that V-twin. They want that quality of experience, and I can understand that because I love a V-twin as well. But this is a really nice motorcycle, one that I think more people should consider. There's definitely drawbacks to this engine configuration, but if those aren't a huge deal breaker to you, it's a good motorcycle.
Now this BMW R18 Roctane starts around $19,000, and there's a few different options that you can add to them, including a reverse assist that's about $1,000, depending if you feel like you need it. Now, that's not inexpensive. These are definitely pricey motorcycles, but again, like we talked about, really well built, nice bikes to ride. So let me know what you think in the comments down below, and we'll catch you all in the next video.